when I give somebody an instruction or give somebody that's going to help them, it's a thought within my head, which I cannot hear, which I cannot follow. You can only find your car keys when you ask for what you do with them. Mm-hmm. Once you say it outside your mouth, you say it externally, then it becomes real. Then you can move on it. So when I say something to you to help you, there's something within my life that I need to do for myself as well that's in that realm. My sessions are for you, okay? But just like these conversations, I learn about me as well. There's no way you can have a session and don't grow. It's impossible. And so that's one reason why I like that. I'm a man of many flaws, but I'm not afraid. So when I'm talking to my clients, is to get them to understand I'm no different from you. We can switch seats anytime. It's just a matter of what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do. I'm in the process of building myself up. You're in the process of considering it. Make sense?
Yes. John, owner, founder of A Talk with John?
A Talk with John Counseling and Consulting.
Since our first conversation, I've somewhat looked out and said, wow, I don't even remember exactly what age you are, but somewhere along those lines, when I'm embarking on that age, I want to be able to be as still, as peaceful, as calm, and as confident as Mr. John was in that first conversation that he had with me.
That if you're waiting to get to my age, you've waited too long. Whatever age you are, the person that you hear speaking, I was not this person 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So what we all don't realize, I became this basically overnight. I made a decision to talk differently, to answer differently, to be different. Doesn't mean it wasn't difficult, but I could have been this person at 57. I'm 57 years old. I could have been this person at 19. It's just a choice within your mind. I just chose to be something different.
Obviously, a lot of life experience. What were some of the key factors that led you into making that decision? A very conscious decision to be the man that you are now and today.
The man that you are having a conversation with is a person that I described as a serial cheater. So how did I become me? This version is jacking up two families, mine, my first marriage and my second. And after you look at what we call collateral damage and all the hurt that you dispense, you realize you got to be somebody different. And so along that path, a lot of things have had to change, and a lot of things still have to change. You're forever evolving.
How do you embrace the idea of ever evolving, ever changing, when it's still, number one, new to you, but you're not even sure, right? If it's going to pay off in the long run.
Depends on what payoff is. A few weeks ago, I realized that I spent 57 years living off someone else's thought process. What I mean by that, all my actions have been predicated to how someone else may think, feel, or respond to me as a fear of rejection. Because when we tend to say or do what we want, even if it's not hurting another individual, somebody's going to disapprove. And so with disapproval comes rejection. So I always thought in a manner of not to get the disapproval, not to be rejected. Once you discover that you don't have to live like that, then you experience true freedom. And so that's what I'm experiencing now. It's funny, I told somebody the other day, I'm not out of bondage, but I know I have been approved by the parole board.
Break that down for me.
See, when you get never been to prison, but I've talked and spoke to enough people. When you get approved by the parole board, the key is not to get in any more trouble while you waiting. And that's what I'm doing now. I just need to hold steady. And I need to continue to do what I did to even be considered to be free. I don't need to have those conversations. I don't need to look at this, and I don't need to listen to that. I need to realize that one day I'm going to be free. And I'm excited about that. To be able to wake up one morning and not worry about what you think about me. Even if you choose to leave me, to be okay with me being me. See, that's what I call striving for greatness. To be me. There's nothing more wonderful in this world than to wake up and be free of somebody else's thought process. Don't mean you're not in a relationship. It just means you're free of their thought process about your life. Not many of us experience that.
Very specifically, where are you from?
All right, I was born in a town called Laurinburg, North Carolina, which is about 2 hours away from here. That's where my grandmother, that's where they lived. And so my mother it's 5 of us. And I think all of us were, if possible, were born there. My sister might have been born in Hawaii, I believe. She's a year older. I grew up here in Charlotte. Hidden Valley Elementary, Paul Creek, Pawtucket. I even went to Seaversville Kindergarten. Why I remember that just now, I have no idea. J.T. Williams in West Charlotte. And so didn't go to school here. I did a semester at CP, getting HVAC, and didn't go back to college. Graduated in 1984, went to college in 2008. 10 years online, Liberty University, which allowed me to get here. I worked 29 years, 7 months for a company called Colonial Materials. Through a chain of events, I was able to start my career. And it changed my life. Changed how I talk, how I move, how I relate to people. And I like to think of myself as a charlatan. But I sort of handicapped myself because I refused to go explore the world, but not because I did not wish to, but because I was always on somebody else's thought process. So I didn't do a lot of things that I could have, but I enjoy what I'm becoming.
Absolutely.
All right.
And more of that to come, I believe. Traveling the world, seeing more. I thank you for being here. I think you have a lot to offer the world in general, but certainly the community here. What I heard you mention was Hidden Valley, J.T. Williams, West Charlotte. If you're in Charlotte, I don't even care what race you're of. You know what time it is with this conversation. And so when you first shared that with me, I thought that was very unique because that's what I'm looking at isn't the image that someone who's not from Charlotte is going to get when they hear Hidden Valley, J.T. Williams, West Charlotte, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to highlight what that image would look like, but it's amazing that you're sitting here in front of me. And again, I've been to a session with you. It was the best session that I've had, best session hours I've logged, and I look forward to more.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not only for yourself, what does your profession, I'm not even going to ask what your title is, but what does your profession do for you when people care about their mental health and their overall well-being, wanting to be a better person and just serve their community, their families, and themselves, first and foremost, better?
Okay, so my title is Licensed Clinical Mental Health Counselor. That's a lot of words to say. Counselor.
Yes, sir.
Therapist. All these other things. What does it do for me when someone comes in and they really want to work on their mental health? It's amazing when people seriously take changing into consideration. And so there's some things I have to explain to people. You know, one of the things that I have a tendency to say is, if you've been to counseling, if you're going to sit and talk to me, this is not that. We're not having that type of conversation. And one of the hardest things about talking to me, I can be what my contemporaries call is very practical. But practical can be painful. Change does not occur without pain. And so I tell an individual, that's the best thing you could possibly do. You know, those who follow particular religions, they will hear words such as generational curse. I tend to say no, generational choice. So what you're doing is, when you come and you sit and have a conversation and you are always serious, but you might not have the follow through, but everybody who comes and sit down is serious, you're going to change something for yourself, those within your immediate spaces, and everyone that relates to you. Everyone is not going to want you to change. Some people are going to still want you to be that individual because you're needy to them, and they get a sense of empowerment because they haven't always assisted you. And then some people are not going to want you to become different because you're going to become empowered, and you're going to learn the value of saying no. And so all these things, and we're going to talk about the hurt spots. And I call it surgery without anesthesia. We just going in. And letting people understand that there's a change, there's a transformation, and there's a metamorphosis. You didn't come here for change. Change is a back and forth. And you do it constantly. We all talk about how we're going to change. Transformation is nothing more than sustained change. You can be that for an extended period of time, but with the option to go back. A metamorphosis is a whole new creature. And you can't see that new creature unless you destroy a part of what made it new. Metamorphosis comes with a cocooning, the pain piece. Most of us do not wish to do that part. It's hard to look at the faces of disappointment. People who you care about, and you have to tell them no. And say yes to things that you do not want to do, but you know you need to do to become different. And so that's what you get when you sit in front of me, a metamorphosis. You didn't come here to be the same. If you came here to be the same and you just want to have a conversation, then meet me for tea. Don't pay me to just have a conversation with you because you're wasting my time.
Would you do this work for free?
Absolutely. Appreciate you asking that. Because here's the deal. I've asked clients, if you could live for free, what would you do? What would you contribute if you could live for free? If you can go get gas, you go get something to eat, sit down and order your biggest meal, get up, walk away. But you had to contribute something each and every day. That's one way to put it. The second way I would tell them is, if your creator, whatever you choose to believe in, came and sat at the foot of your bed and they said, why should I wake you in the morning? What would you say? Well, I'm here to tell you, this is what I would do if I could live for free. I would offer the same times. I would get the same effort, if not greater. And I would ask my creator to give me one more day to do this. And for those who would say, just to worship you, we already got that answer, We know that. But you got to have a reason to wake up every morning. You got to. I'm not saying it's not a waste of life. That's not what I'm saying. But most of us will wake up every morning and receive a paycheck, and that's not enough. I don't wake up not wanting to come to work. I've told clients, I don't have it today. You got to help me help you. And I'm honest with it. But there's nothing else on this earth that I was born to do. It just took me too long to get here, which circles back to that question you hope by the time you get my age. Please don't wait that long to do whatever you're trying to do with your life. Whatever it is, you start today. And when it's your time, you will be where you wish to be. But you can't do it if you wait. Don't wait. I did not procrastinate. Procrastination means you just don't care enough to do that right now. That's not what I did.
If you don't know, how do you figure out what, I'm going to use the buzzword because you didn't use it, and I appreciate you not using it, what your what people define to be their purpose?
Honestly, I didn't know this was my purpose. I've did bricklaying, HVAC. I tried to sell drugs. That, you hear me say try, failed at that miserably. I have been a pizza maker, warehouse worker. I've done a whole bunch of things. And I can honestly tell you, thinking of myself as a counselor was never one of those things. That was not nowhere close to a thought process of mine. But one thing I knew that I always did, and I always did well, was I could talk to people. I didn't know somebody was going to pay me for it. I had no idea. And when I discovered, which is recently, I told someone, I am now getting paid for the same things I used to get whippings for. I used to get whippings for talking too much in class or paying attention to somebody else's conversation and not to the conversation I was supposed to be listening to. And that goes back to that thing, your gift will make a way. But I had no idea. But if we're going to use the word purpose, I truly believe most people know what they should be doing. I find it hard to think that I'm the only one. I think I just got courage enough to fail.
A difficult question to answer, but where did that you know where we're going with this. So when I look at older generation, without boxing in, so few choose to do things differently. They choose to remain stuck to the thought processes of those who came before them. Mm-hmm. And they will also attest to being some of the most courageous people. How did your true, genuine sense of courage get you here versus, I'm not trying to get you to compare yourself to your peers or counterparts, but is there an underlying difference that you've been able to witness, or what is it?
For me, most of us know, and I don't really like using that word failure, but most of us know what failure feels like. Mm. That's a familiar thing. We know, we can smell it. We know when it's coming. We can imagine it. And after a while, we get comfortable with it. But success is a different season. We're unfamiliar with it. Those who have been in the failure zone for such a long time don't really recognize it. And success is difficult. And then one day you just have to decide, it doesn't matter. I've failed so many times that if I would have attempted this and it did not work out, it would not have mattered. I had a track record of failure. Relationships, jobs, education, being a father, being a brother, I can look behind me and see the damage that I've done. And then one day I said, you know what, I'm gonna do something different. And then I realized I wasn't failing. I got an associate degree. Wait a minute, you've been, they don't call you stupid, but they ask you, are you stupid? And then I got a bachelor's degree. And then I got a master's degree. And I realized that I could learn. It's just a matter of deciding that you don't care what happens. The individuals that are successful no longer worry about the failure. They no longer worry about the success. They worry about doing what their purpose, as you said, is. And if you choose to do that, your gift will make a way. You will eat. You will have shelter. You will have people that care about you. You will have all those things. You will have all those things. But you have to decide to not care. That's part of that metamorphosis. You're going to lose people. You're going to gain others. You're going to have people to try to put you on too soon. But if you cut a butterfly out of the cocoon too soon, it will not fly. So, religion, once again, when it became my time, then I shine. That's how that goes. That's my purpose.
Why do you choose to be specific with concepts, ideas of religion versus them just being random thoughts?
Listen to this book, Jack Reacher. It's the details. He keep talking about the details. Okay, now I'm getting ready to get in trouble. I do not have a problem with religion. I have a problem with the details. I've sat in congregation after congregation after pastor, and I listen, and I hear the word, I read the word, I've studied the word. My degree is Christian counseling degree, associates, and a degree in religious studies. And I'm going, where's the practicality? How am I supposed to apply this to my life? And I've heard this stuff for 57 years, and they call it teaching. No, that's not teaching. You're just standing up there speaking. I don't know what to do with that. I'm 17, 18, 19, 20, 31, 51, and you keep giving me the same thing. Purpose? If you'd have asked me that question, why should I wake in the morning? And then give me an idea to move when I was a little younger, I could have got here a lot sooner. Guidance. I don't have a problem with religion of any sort. I have a problem with how it's given to us, the practicality of it. And so when I use it, and I try to use it sparingly in my sessions, because I don't have permission to do that. You got to open that window, and I'm going to come on in. Then we have that conversation. But that's different. That's different, man, to sit and listen to someone talk about forgiveness and not even realize that forgiveness is an action word. That's a verb. Forgiveness is not something that you ask for. It's something that once you said, I forgive you, then there has to be proof in that word. It's just like the conversation we had earlier. I'm going to pray for you. Pray for me when? When you go home, or you're going to pray for me now? All these are action words. That's not how they talk. You keep giving me verses after verses. I remember knowing all the verses, all the books. And then they tell you, religion again. People who are not religious know the word. What does that mean?
They know it better than the ones who are. Right?
Yeah, so I'm going, help me use it. You know, you got to be afraid. You have to not be afraid to fail. You have to focus on, there's difference. You got past, present, now. A lot of times when we sit in the church, we focus so much on the past. What are we doing with this now? How can we take this and make it work in our future? If you want to tell me about business, building a business or starting a business, do you have here in my church, do you have something that's going to help me start my business? And when I say help me, educate me. Or do you want me to do that on my own? Because I don't have that muscle yet. I don't have that developed yet. So I can go through a whole bunch of stuff with how I try to help individuals, because if I'm telling you something, I will sit there and research it for you while you're sitting in my office. At least walk out of there with a starter kit. You don't need to give them the whole thing, but that's just how I see it. And it might just be the places that I said, and that's not all religious. That's not all everybody. I'm not the only one. But so I can only go on what I have seen and what I have heard and what I dislike. And like I said, I'm comfortable with being me now. I don't care whether you like me or not. I'm good.
For you to say that makes it seem as if at some point you did concern yourself with the thoughts of others. What was the critical moment or realization that it took for you to, I don't care about what they think, because I only got this one life anyway?
Laying in bed one night, I had a dream that I died because I stuck a gun in my mouth and blew my head off. That whole thought process is pressed upon how I concerned myself with somebody, how somebody else thought about me. And that's recent. Within the last 6 months, that thought crossed my mind. And I said, you know what? There ain't a person walking this earth worth that much of my thought process to where I can't be happy with me. If I am sweeping around my own back door, if I'm cleaning my life up, if I am moving and doing what I need to do so that I can be happy with the man in the mirror, I can't worry about your timetable. I can't worry about what you feel about me. I can't focus on your thoughts about me. That's when I got there. This ain't no recent thing. That's part of the evolution of change. But man, you got to go through some pain to get there. That's hurtful stuff that you got to deal with. You got to revisit some things in your mind and in your heart that you don't want to deal with. If the people are still here, you got to have a conversation with some of those individuals. Not just to tell them off, but to tell them about the pain you received and how it felt, but say it in a way that it can be heard. Man, it's a whole lot to becoming different. It's not a pleasant experience.
Something that I admire about you is the way you deliver. Even in this conversation, I've seen you put forth passion, and it's still controlled and conservative and comes across delicately, soft-spoken. Have you always been that way, been able to deliver in that type of demeanor? Because my tone can switch so fast, especially when I get passionate about something or someone, has quote-unquote provoked me.
So, one day, sitting in marriage counseling, not many years ago, my wife described to the counselor, she thought of me as a nuclear reactor. And she didn't know it at the time, but that crushed me, especially as I began to learn over time. You thought of me as a weapon of mass destruction. I've never yelled at you like that. I never screamed at you like that. You never see me be that demonstrative towards you. But she had seen me be that way with my family nearly 34 years ago, 37 years ago. And she possibly, I'm not sure, might have spoke to me out of that thought process. She might have responded to me out of that thought process. She might have been different towards me out of that thought process, because that's a really, really heavy thought process to carry. And so I learned that how I carry myself at all times is important, because I did not like her having that thought process about me. And then I learned that because of how I responded and who I was, that maybe people didn't have that complete thought process, but people were afraid of me. You're too big, you're too black, you're too ugly, you're a big dude. You can't be angry. You can't be angry. And then I learned that I didn't have to be. I can let you know you hurt me by speaking in this tone. I can tell you how much you disappointed me. I can tell you how much I'm disappointed in what you've done. And I can wish you the best and not deal with you. I don't have to be loud. I don't have to use a bunch of curses, and I don't have to swing my hands to do anything. All I have to do is just let you know with my words that I don't like what you said and I don't like what you did. I can think of it like this. Yeah, I can shoot you, as they say, but I can walk up to you and stick a knife in you real slow and use my words. That's called frequency of hearing. I'm going to speak so you can hear me, but also I'm going to let you feel my words as well.
That's quite prolific to me, because let's just say from certain standpoints, that can be a difficult thought process. There's a duality maybe even in some people's minds coming from the places that you've been. So can I go to Hidden Valley like that? Can I go to Beatty's Ford Road in West Charlotte with that same demeanor?
See, here's
don't I have to be the angry black guy and intimidating guy, and don't I?
No, you don't have to. See, when I grew up in Hidden Valley was, we were sedity. We was top notch Hidden Valley. And then there was a slow decline. It's not, I'm going to tell you, one thing, my father, he's gone. But it's not the dude that's talking the loudest that gets people nervous. It's the one who talks the softest. Because we don't know how to deal with nobody like that. We know that dog barking might bite, but that one that just keeps looking at us, not saying nothing, we don't walk past that one because we're not sure what he gonna do. And then he just moves slow and growls low. He might be the most vicious thing on the block. I don't have to make a lot of noise to be profound and to be prolific. I don't have to do those things. And if I'm consistently in this form, then you don't know what you're dealing with. I can be whatever you imagine. And if I'm quiet enough, you might imagine the most horrible thing you've ever met in your entire life. But if I'm loud, at least you have an idea. Individuals who make that much noise may not have that much power. But I can sit silently and be the king of the world and you'll never know.
Give me some tidbits for the upcoming young generation where there seems to be this disconnect. Um, and I don't want to make an assumption. I don't want to be generalized, or generalize anything or anyone, but they seem to be more reckless. They seem to not care as much about the things that past generations have cared about. How do we connect with them? How do we make our life experiences?
I don't think young people should care as much. I think they should care the way they want to. Eh, When I came up, I didn't care the same about what my parents thought, and the world became greater. The belief is that someone tapped me and focused my passion towards something positive. There's not one young person that I would run into that I would ask to be different. All they need is redirecting. Some of the people, I mean, I remember when crack was on the street, and here I am working my job. I was making great money, and I used to tell my employer, hire him. He on the block. John, what you mean? Because it's corporate white world. They're like, what you mean he on the block? Dude is on the block from 7 o'clock at night to freaking 3 o'clock in the morning. He on the block. He on the corner. He is not the man. I can't say certain words, but will work. Hire him. Eventually, listen. They put in work. They put in work. It's just misdirected. Individuals who talk about entrepreneurship and wanting to do something new, listen to them. Innovative. They gonna think and figure if you think about it, all the things that we have that we use today is because somebody was too lazy to do it the other way and they had to figure out a new way. Why would I want you to change a young person? If we quit trying to harness and break them, then they could be productive. I tell people, if you want a good horse, I don't even ride. But I remember looking at that shows and learning. You don't break a horse. Because if you break it, what good is it? But you do get it to trust you. And then you can use it. You don't break people. You don't change. I say now there's certain things that I call it word crack, and that's entrepreneurship. Because if everybody's owning something, who working? And some of y'all young people are not cut out to be entrepreneurs. What time did you get up this morning? What time did you go to bed last night? What did you do towards what you want to become? If you answer anything that's in a negative, get you a job. I ain't mad at you, but you're just not ready yet. If you were a cake, you need to go back in the oven. You're not quite, when you do the little toothpick stick and you look at it, yeah, you still a little moist right there. You need 15, 20 more minutes. That might, in lifespan, that might be 2 or 3 more years. You're not quite ready. But I'm not going to destroy you. I just want you to believe that, trust me, you will get there, but you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in, and please stop burning bridges. You ain't got to talk like that. Nobody's trying to hold you down. Man, as a culture, we've been held down a long time. I think we still limited by how far we can go, but don't mean we can't get started. That's all. So I'm not into, as an older person, I embrace young people because I was young one time before. And if I consider myself as in relation to my grandmother, when she passed, she was 95. I still got a long way to go to get old. All right?
Mm-hmm. Give me, if you will, give me some words of advice and tidbits on how to embrace the process, how to be patient with your growth, how to give yourself grace and not beat yourself up.
Patient with your growth. Anything worth having, and we're not talking material things, we're talking about self. Embrace the pain. Accept that as the number one thing that's definitely going to come. Embrace the pain. It's not going to kill you. We're talking about hearing the word no, which you're going to hear thousands of times. But that doesn't have to be the last time you hear it. Because if you give people enough opportunities to tell you no, then you're giving them the same opportunity to tell you yes. Understand that tomorrow never comes. When you wake up, it's just the next day. It's now. You don't have tomorrow to do something. You got yesterday, today, tomorrow? No. When you get to tomorrow, you got to do it today. Start it, regardless of whatever it is. You're not promised tomorrow. And everybody does not get to go up the mountain with you. I remember watching old black and white movies, and they used to be tethered together climbing that mountain. And I'm telling you, the one thing everybody had was a sharp knife. Because if somebody fell, you didn't get pulled up. They cut the bait and you dropped. Some of these people in your lives, hanger-ons, dead weight, if you need to, get up in the middle of the night when base camp is set. You pray over them and you go on without them. That's your friends. You don't owe them a long goodbye. Family members, people that you're close to, you wake them up and say, listen, I love you, but you can't go with me. I'm not strong enough to carry you and me too. You got to stay here. And when you get the strength, I'll meet you at the top. But you can't come with me. And that's difficult. Those are some of the things that you have to do. And they're all difficult. They're so very difficult. But they're necessaries. And they're non-negotiable. Because if you don't embrace the pain, you're not going to win. You're going to sit in the miserly thing of, I can't do this, I can't do this. And if you don't leave those people behind, not men, women. What I've learned to tell men, women's a different conversation. But we as men, we have a tendency to want to be strong. We want to be supermen. You know, we want our shoulders to be so wide, and we believe we can carry the world on our shoulders, and we got it. And I have to tell us, it doesn't matter whether you're black, brown, it doesn't matter. White, that S on your chest that we have all proclaimed does not stand for Superman. That stands for suffering in silence. You're not climbing up that mountain without some help. You got to let somebody know who's ahead of you, I'm coming. And we've all seen that picture where the person reaches down and pulls them up. That's what that means. But if you don't let me know from down below that you're there and you need help, I don't know to reach down and look for you because I'm too busy looking up, asking the man above me, Need a little help right here. I'm stuck. That's important. You don't do this by yourself. You don't do this by yourself. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
Is there anything that you felt I haven't asked you that you would like to share with the people?
That you haven't asked me. We've heard this thing that people always have to have a why.
Hmm.
And the more I thought about that, I don't think that's the most important question to ask anybody. I think the most important question to ask is what? What is it that you want to become? Because before I ask you why, you have to identify what it is you wish to be. And then we have to ask the question, how? Because that's when you put together the blueprint to make it happen. So we go from what to how to when. And if you can answer what you want to be, how you plan to get there, and when you would like to achieve it, then I can ask you why. Because if you got all those three together, then you're going to know your why. And I don't think we do that enough.
Heard. Mr. John, thank you so much for joining us today and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate you.
I thank you as well. All right. Y'all take care.
Yes, sir.